Good afternoon from Oban and welcome to the Oban SNP Hub. Welcome to our viewers on Independence Live with this gang of lovely people, and we're just going to have a conversation about how things are with the election and local politics in Argyll Bute and Lochaber. This is the constituency of Brendan O'Hara, is that correct?
He has represented this constituency formerly. Yep.
And how are things?
Well, for a start, we've had a change of constituency boundaries, another one. So we've got Argyll Bute and South Lochaber now. So it's an even bigger area to cover. It is massive.
From the Mulligan-Tyre to the American Point.
And we've lost two seats in
Two
Scotland
seats.
because
Yep.
of it. Where have they gone?
South of England.
Oh,
Yeah. So
London Town.
Yeah. Wales have lost 8.
have they indeed?
Yes.
that's because they're not
So
shouting loud enough.
grateful then.
Well, that's because they're not shouting loud enough.
Yep. Well, this is an equal union, of course, that we're in.
Voluntary. Yeah.
Campbell's got a great say. What were you saying about it being an equal union?
Oh yes, aye. If you were charged with being a member of the United Kingdom in an equal union, would there be sufficient evidence to convict you?
No. Absolutely not.
Well, it's a thought, isn't it, really? And that's where we've come to at this stage.
Well, if these things are being thrown about, people need to sayings like that are being thrown about. People need to be pushed to, explain.
Yes,
Explain how is it an equal union?
absolutely.
Give us an example.
I think, Joy, that's one of the really interesting things of the campaign is that people are allowed to make massive statements and not be asked to give evidence or to justify what they're saying, and except our party, who has to justify most things that come out of their mouth and even more, which is quite unfortunate. But we've got a lot of stuff that we can talk about that is so positive. So Brendan, who has been a marvellous MP for quite a while, since when?
2015.
2015, yeah.
Thank you.
So 9 years, and we're hoping for him to be returned. And our biggest danger, we are told, is the Tories. However, all of us here have been out on the doorstep, and our biggest danger is people not voting. Just slipping their way to a Tory MP, which is a real concern. Now, I would like to show the camera this.
Yes, absolutely.
SNP delivered council tax fees. The Tory candidate in Argyll and Bute is the lady who pushed the 10% council tax fees through Argyll and Bute Council before there was a coup in which the SNP and the Bute took over the council. So really, that's what folk need to know. Are you really going to vote for somebody who wants to be your council tax up by 10%? I don't think so.
Or are you going to vote for somebody who represents the last 14 years of Tory austerity, of Brexit? It just seems ludicrous that anybody in Scotland would come out and vote Conservative.
You're talking about Brexit. We had a guy in here in the hub, because everybody comes in here. Everybody comes in here. And he came from the Netherlands, and he was showing us a beautiful picture today that said Europe for Scotland. Not Scotland in Europe. But his friend had just sent it to him from the Netherlands because he knew he was on holiday in Scotland. And he was telling me about the referendum, both the independence referendum and how we'd been duped.
And there was a huge rally at the Hague.
Yes. Good remembering. But he was telling me all about how awful the referendums have been and how badly Scotland were served by them. And people across Europe can see all this. And it's our job from here to try and explain to people who live here, try and get them to see.
I think it's really interesting what you're saying, Joy, is the amount of people that really don't know what will change if we move from Tory to Labour, which is not going to be a lot. However, if in Scotland we move from SNP to anything other, and then they don't realise the amount of
all these things you were going to do what I was going to do.
See, these leaflet, they do not realise that these things could disappear and will probably disappear including the prescriptions, cheaper council tax, all of these kind of things, which we don't get time to talk about, and we don't get opportunity to put over on normal, whatever normal is, media.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And that's
Mainstream media.
mainstream, that's the word,
Mainstream
mainstream media, yeah. And I suppose our job in the hub here is to try and help tell people things and inform them of these things and
Well, also the idea of independence, that disappears. SNP
Yeah.
goes to
That's it.
seats.
That's it.
Very, very true. It goes in the back burner for a while, and I think the important thing is to re-elect a sufficient number of SNP MPs to hold whichever Prime Minister does get elected. And it's a bit presidential at the moment.
Yeah.
It looks fairly straightforward. It looks actually, let's be honest, it looks as if Labour are on a scoosh case. They'll get in England, so there isn't much point in voting for Labour in Scotland.
No.
So if you want, somebody to hold the new Labour government to account in Westminster, and indeed to promote independence, which is what Stephen Flynn and the rest of the team do, then we've got to re-elect all of the MPs that we have.
But also, Campbell, from what we've seen on the debate the other night, when Scotland actually wasn't mentioned once, and the BBC and MSM are endorsing this.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Today we hear the announcement that the leader of the Conservative Party in Scotland is about to resign once he, hopefully, in his case, gets elected to Westminster, because obviously he sees Westminster as more important than Edinburgh. And if he is successful enough to get elected up there, then that would be quite something. I think he's going to have a big fight in his hands from what we can hear. But the interesting thing today was, as I turned on mainstream media, Rishi Sunak was talked about, Keir Starmer was talked about. There wasn't a mention of this resignation or potential resignation in Scotland.
I don't know it.
So London has missed this story completely.
And I'll tell you what else they've missed. First, he's saying about the cost of greed crisis. Mainstream media have missed this whole thing about this crisis didn't come out of nowhere. It's not a volcano. It was created. It's a policy. It's an absolute policy. And the other thing which really grates me, as an independent nation, we will be able to set not only home affairs but foreign affairs. Who are the only people down in Parliament, in the UK Parliament, who are talking about needing a ceasefire in Israel, in Palestine? All these thousands of
But
people.
instead we are represented by people who don't even acknowledge that we exist.
It's true. So on the positive side of things, when you see all the things that have been achieved by an SNP government with a devolved settlement and the ability only to work within a budget, a pocket money budget given to it by Westminster, which since 2007 they've balanced the books every year and made it all work. It's quite remarkable that they've been able to do any of these 100 important pledges and actualities that they brought in, not least bringing so many families out of poverty over the years with the child supplement that they brought in, things like free prescriptions, things like free bus travel. I mean, phenomenally good stuff that has happened there. So we need to protect that. We need to get out and vote, and that's the key. It's getting everybody out to vote. So hopefully you can talk your friends into it. That it is important to vote, because I think that apathy is our biggest problem. People have been put off politics.
I'm not surprised when you see what they're saying.
So we've got to invigorate folk again, and that's what we're here to do at the Hub in Oban, is to invigorate people to get out and vote. And if they do go out and vote for another party, whether they vote for Alba, whether they vote Green, or whether they vote SNP, at least they're voting for Scotland.
Well, Brendan was saying at the grassroots AGM the week before last that although 75% of people under 35 are in favour of independence, only 25% of that 75% will vote. So we need to inspire people to vote. Personally, I have been dragging my children along to polling booths since they were tiny, going, women died so that you can vote.
It is a point, isn't it? I mean,
We were just saying to our daughter last night, are you sure you're organising in the right address? Yes, yes.
But it's not even just about the women's vote, you know, men died so that ordinary working men could vote as well. It's a really precious gift, and when you look at countries that have dictatorships, you just go, oh my God, we're so lucky.
Yeah. The ones that have obvious dictatorships.
So in Argyll Bute and South Lochaber, we know that we are the only candidate supporting independence. There is no Green, there is no Lapper.
No.
So if you support independence, you have to vote for the SNP for a very good candidate.
Yes, absolutely.
A proven candidate.
A proven, tried and tested candidate.
Interesting.
If there's a Labour government, how do you think that will change the approach to Scotland and independence?
It won't. Nothing. I don't think.
I think it might actually be pulled back. I think the devolution might be diluted somewhat. That's what concerns me. And I think at the moment, let's face it, when you are down south, a lot of people think we're a basket case because of what they hear on the mainstream media. And I don't think any of that will change, but I am really concerned about the basket case that's being presented. Therefore, we must save them from themselves, and that's what concerns me. And it also concerns me in Argyll Bute if, and I don't think this is going to happen, if by any chance that woman, that's the Tory candidate by the way, got in, they would be in a position where it's a Tory, it's a complete Labour huge majority, and one Tory or one tiny wee voice for Argyll Bute and South Lochaber.
Do you think there's much chance of that though? I mean, I think if the SNP...
If people get out to vote, we'll be fine.
Well, that was just the point I was going to make. If the independent supporting voters in Argyll and Bute, and that includes the Greens and Albert, as Norman points out, if they come out, Argyll Bute and South Lochaber, and vote for independence, then we win. That's as simple as it is. I cannot imagine that more than the rump Conservative vote will come out to vote. I could see that the Labour candidate will take a reasonable amount of votes in Argyll on the back of the Labour rise that there is. That's happened before in Argyll and Bute. Now, South Lochaber I'm not quite so familiar with as to how that would work, but I know for William and that sort of area out with for William has been quite supportive previously. But the question is to get all the independence voters actually turning out on the day, whether it's with a postal vote or whether it's in the actuality of turning out at a polling station, and encouraging their friends to do so, because that's the bit that will make the difference. You've heard, no doubt, Margot MacDonald and Leslie Riddoch and all the rest who have all said over time, if we all convince one more person to vote for independence, we win. That's basically as simple and as difficult as it is. So bring your friends out and make sure you vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I also think, actually, we just need to get people out to vote, SNP, and then try and somehow defeat voter apathy and keep SNP MPs in Westminster and increase the number that we've got, because you need the strength of that voice.
Well, that's the whole point of here. People came in last week in their droves and still coming in to get postal vote applications because all of a sudden they've had their holidays booked and now they've to vote. And where else do they get them? Oh, scan this code. We discovered that the Electoral Commission in Campbelltown had sent posters to a place that nobody will see them in Oban. So we said, send them to the hub. We'll share them with everybody. You know, just the nonsense of this short window that people have got. So that's why I'm pushing postal applications like nobody's.
And postal applications close on
Ooh,
15th.
It's Wednesday.
18th.
The 18th, I believe.
And you don't
One
need
more week.
voter ID for a postal application.
No.
Whereas a lot of people are saying, you know, I've got to get my voter ID. You've got to do that by is it the 12th? You've got to get your voter ID if you don't have something to. If you don't have a
Is that
passport,
right?
a driving licence, or an entitlement travel card.
Well, certainly, the application for a postal vote is dead simple, as we've discovered.
Oh.
The only complication is you need your national insurance number.
Or a reason why you don't have one.
Or a reason why you don't have it. Yep. And then it's just name and address and a signature, effectively. So nice and simple.
Yep, get it done,
Very simple.
get it, fill it in, send it back. Sorted.
Perfect.
Oh, I sound like somebody from the railways.
You do.
Get it sorted.
Yes, definitely.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the viewers of MDI about the state of the election?
I would say don't believe a word you're hearing in the polls.
I
That's what I would say.
agree. I agree.
Yep.
Which I know you don't. You don't agree.
But then,
But-
but then don't knock them out to vote because it says they're going to win. I
The
think
viewers of Independence Live tend to avoid MSN.
yeah, yeah.
Because
And
they
well,
know the
well,
license rate.
exactly.
And to be honest, we're preaching to the converted here, aren't we? You know,
As
the
long as
folk that
everybody
are
votes.
watching this in the main are already convinced about independence. The question is, are you convinced about the value of going out and voting in a Westminster election?
Yeah.
And if you're not, then that's how the Unionists will win.
Yeah.
So,
Again,
as I say,
Losing all
go
of this.
vote, go get your postal vote, and bring a friend to do it as well. And
Yeah.
halfway, more than halfway there.
And putting more SNP members into Westminster, is that the route to independence?
It has to be this time. It
Yep.
has to be. I had a great conversation with a guy on the door the other day, understandably swithering, you know, green SNP's been green all his life, but he's swithering towards independence. And by the end of the conversation, he'd convinced himself that he needs an independent Scotland in order to get green policies, because then he can vote green. So
Can you
he's-
imagine if we lose seats, if we have less seats that are independent supporting in Westminster, we'll spend the first 6 months to a year defending that.
Exactly.
The fact that there has been a reduction
Yeah.
in the support for independence because there's been less people who voted for it. And the Labour Party will use that, the Liberals are very keen to use that, and the Tories of course too, because they will all argue that the only people that will stop the SNP are their party. So if you sit at home and be apathetic, or you allow your friends to sit at home and be apathetic about it there, then effectively you're colluding with the Unionists.
It's
Not a
sad
good thing.
fact. Sad fact.
Not a good thing to look back on and say, well, that was us. Yeah. We missed an opportunity. Far better to go out there and send a good message to Westminster. Let's do it.
And thanks, Gary and Stuart, for coming in here and let us sound off about what's important to us all.
Thank you for giving Independence Live the time today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Delighted, thank you.
All part of the service, eh?
Thank you guys. Take care.